participants, today we are going to look at a strategical concept. Um, it is how to make a plan in any position. Now, I am familiar. Now, are you familiar with this feeling? Like, I am also familiar. I look at the board. I look at my pieces. I look at my opponent, and I find myself asking, okay, what's next? What should I do? What should be my plan? And at the end of the game, your friend, coach, or a chess engine shows you the plan, and you are like, oh, how could I miss that? Well, if you have never experienced that situation and always know what to do, may feel free to close this video. But if you know that, you are not alone. So um let's see it in action. This is seven questions method. So, let's just start from the beginning. So, let's ask our questions. The first question is, what problems does the opponent have? Well, the opponent. Okay, so now, um, the Black's king would love to have a bishop on g7 because so that the dark squares can be covered because the dark squares are looking pretty weak. Black king is not so safe, but we cannot say that it's very weak because the pieces are very far from it really. So black has an issue with their d6 pawn backward, which is now we can pressure it with our rooks, placing them on the d file. And now, what problems do we have? So our king is fine. We don't have any weak pawns. All our pawns are good. Mm, we do have a weak square on d4, and if black's knight comes to d4, we won't like it. Not only will black have a strong outpost for their knight, but we'll no longer be able to pressure their weak d6 pawn because the knight will limit our rooks on the d file because it's blocking. And then where am I strong? Which side am I strong? Well, this question doesn't have a answer because we are not strong on any side. We are really strong on both. I mean, I can't say anything like that because, well, there's no such file where we are strong. Now, which of my pieces can be happier or better? Now, we know that our rooks aren't doing much. They would love to be on the D file attacking the D6 pawn. And but our unhappiest piece is our light square bishop because it is limited by c4 and e4, and it stays in our way of our plan to exploit the opponent's d6 weakness. So now which pieces do I want to trade? We know we have quite a bad bishop honestly. So and black's knight on e7 can become a monster after two moves on d4. So this means it would be a dream if you could trade our bishop for the black. So um, we would easily pressurize the d6 pawn and might combine with it and attack using the weak square on the king. So what's the opponent's next move slash plan? Um, Black's plan is to play NC6 and D4. So quick run of questions. What problems does the opponent have? What problems do I have? Where am I strong? Which of my pieces can be better slash happier? Which pieces do I want to trade? And what's my opponent's next move slash plan? And now uh, the seventh question is the only one that this question should only need to be asked if none of the six questions have an answer. The seventh question is how can I advance? But as we've learned, many of the first questions have answers that need to be addressed. So we've seen that we want to play around black's d6 pawn, that's correct. We have a problem with our d4 square and we should prevent black's knight from getting to there. Our light square bishop is misplaced. Now we would be happy to trade it with the opponent's knight. Based on this information, we can connect the dots and here's a great plan, bishop c2. So what does it do? Firstly, it places our bishop in a good diagonal, frees up the d file for our rooks, and also has the idea to put our bishop on a4. And if we place knight c6, then bishop a4, queen c7, and then rook cd1. And after rook ed8, threatening to play knight d4, white achieved the dream. They exchanged the black light square bishop with the opponent's potential monster knight. Now they can target the d6 weak pawn and combine it with targeting black skin. Now this is a double attack, but this is quite a positional one. We aren't going to spend much time, but see, rook d3, rook d3 is just taking the pawn here, and rook h3, queen h6 is a mate, possible mating threat. It leads to heavy material losses, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I think white is slightly better because of this e5. Now, if rook d3, then there's this pawn hanging. So, not quite yet. We can play that. Something like queen e2. This has to be played. So, yeah, it isn't that better, but at least we got a plan, and that is the best move in the position, by the way. So, next example. Now, the next example, we're going to breeze it pretty quick. So let's get a whole picture of the position. What problems does the opponent have? Black doesn't have serious issues. King safe, no weak pawns and squares. Only issue is their behind in development. What problems do I have? I don't have any issues either. The king is safe with no weak pawns or weak squares. Where am I strong? I am stronger on the queen side. I have a majority of 4 v3, so that's nice. Um, which of my pieces can be happier? Well, the bishop on b3 stays in front of the b pawn and stops us from pushing our pawns, and the rook on a1 is just sad. Which pieces do I want to trade? Well, the question doesn't have an answer. Nothing specific can be gained by trading any of the pieces. What is the opponent's next move or plan? Why black is strong on the king side, as you can see by the developed queen. So they'll probably um, develop their bishop by bringing it to c6 and then trying to do something like this or this, pushing their king side pawns. So now how can I advance? Now again this question should only be needed when none of the first 6 questions had an answer. So now that we've seen the whole picture of the position in detail, we have learned that we should play on the queen side and like push our pawns. And the bishop on b3 is misplaced. Well, connect the dots, bishop d1. Now white transfer the bishop on f3. Now this solves the problem of this, and this also brings to black the problem of this. So now the bishop is happier, it's closer to our king, and at the same time it's going to support the pawn storm. And we also prevented bishop d7 because of bishop takes b7, and the bishop c6 plan because b7 will hang. And white's next move will be b4 b5, and white has a big advantage and easy play. Now example 3. Um, Now we are going to quickly run through this. What problems does the opponent have? Black has weakened their king by pushing their king side pawns, as you can see. Um, but their king is okay, and they have a queen and a knight next to him providing defense. Additionally, white's queen and bishop are far from the king. Regarding the pawn structure, their f6 pawn is backward and their a6 pawn can be attacked. What problems do I have? Well, we have a weak pawn on e3 and a weak central square on e4, so that ain't great, and we won't like a e4 knight. So also our king isn't that safe because of the advanced pawn on h4. The black's queen is nearby. The black pawn on g4 also could present some problems in the future. Additional challenges will also occur if the black knight is able to join in and exert pressure on our king. All of these threats could lead to some very unpleasant consequences. So now, where am I strong? This question does not have an answer. Which of my pieces can be happier? Well, the rook on f1 is fine, but our queen and bishop aren't doing much on the queen side. Which pieces do I want to trade? Well, we wouldn't mind trading a useless bishop on b6 to the knight on f7. We might also want to trade queens to secure the safety of our king. What's my opponent's next move plan? They have a plan of, let's see, we just try just to make something like this. They have a plan of the move. Wait, oh goodness me, a4. Yeah, they have a plan of g3, king g1, and queen e4, attacking both this and this. So that's their plan. And but here black can also play rook b8, creating a very unpleasant pin. Let me just, yeah. And how can I advance? And also black has the strategic threat of knight d6, knight e4, knight e4. So how can I advance? Now this question is only needed if one of the first six questions have an answer. But there are serious issues we are facing that we must immediately um, like and address. We've learned that all pieces on the queen side are misplaced, our king is unsafe, black has three dangerous threats. Here we go. We call tactics. Um, we say to tactics that we are strategy and we need help. So what can we do with tactics to get your help? Well, we would love to get our bishop to f4, then we would stop black's d3 move, knight d6, knight e4 maneuver, and rook b8 move. Our king would be safe and we'll enter through queen b7. Now, uh, now what's tactics answer? Well, the tactics answer is bishop c7 because black can't take because of queen b8 check. So now the next move we transfer to f4 and then we get our dream position after queen b7. So yeah, that was the game. That was the whole third example. Um, now you know the seven questions method. Now you can apply this method in your games. You will see that you won't miss the resources of your positions. You will see the whole picture of what is occurring and you will never get stuck in your thinking process. And also I'm going to like link a picture in the description of what it really is, because yeah, that was the video. I hope you like this video. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you.